School nurses of Reddit, what's the strangest incident that caused a student to go to your office? School staff, not a nurse, but I feel like this qualifies. I'll dictate a summary of the phone call to his mom because it's funnier. Mom, hello. Me, hello. This is Mrs. Duck from your son's school. I have him in the office as he was attacked by a squirrel and you'll need to come pick him up. He may need stitches and a rabies shot. His face is very cut up, although his eyes seem fine. Mom, bahaha. Who the fuck is this really? Me, Mrs. Duck, from the school. Mom, no fucking way. Is this Sherry? Still cackling away. Me, nope. Still Mrs. Duck. Mom, you're shitting me. Me, not even a little. Mom, okay what? A squirrel? This is for real? Me, re-explains the situation. Mom, did he deserve it? Was he pestering it or? Me, no. It was a random attack. It dive bombed him from a tree. Mom, what the actual foo? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But seriously. Me, nah, I get it. That's what I was saying in my brain too. Mom, right. Thank you. Okay. I'm coming. I just have to tell my coworkers first, because seriously only my kid. Fuck. The kid was fine. Just ended up with a wonky eyebrow. Not the nurse but. Beyblades were a big thing at my elementary school, like a big thing. Kids would have battles with them at lunch, and if you didn't have one you were a loser. Well, as with any fad, the legit thing tends to be expensive, so parents always buy the cheap knockoffs. As it turns out, there's a brand of knockoff Beyblades that are made out of fucking metal and are actually kinda sharp around the edges, especially the parts that stick out. They're also super heavy compared to a real Beyblade, so they spin a lot faster and longer than a real one. So this kid brought one to school and used it to battle a kid with a real Beyblade and actually broke the real one with his knockoff metal one. So obviously he wins, and the battle is over, so he goes to pick up the still spinning Beyblade, so he doesn't have to wait for it to stop, and the thing just fucking chops off his pinky finger. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little, it didn't completely cut it off, but it shredded the flesh around his knuckle so bad that when he went to the hospital there was nothing they could do to reattach it, since it was so badly damaged, and they had to just take it the rest of the way off and clean it up. From what I heard, the wound was similar to what a chainsaw would do, rip and tear flesh, rather than cleanly cut it like a knife. Beyblades were banned the next day. Instant week suspension if you were caught with one from then on. There's so many not nurses here. All good. I'm a school nurse. Student came in with blood coming out of their eyes. Imagine Carrie. Staff were freaking out, and for 1 second I was ready to call 911. I asked how they hurt themselves while putting gloves on, and they said they didn't. Then I realized they also had a nosebleed. So I asked for them to pinch their nose while I pressed on both tear ducts, and within a minute, it stopped. That's probably the oddest thing I've seen. Not a nurse, but had a fellow student put a stolen test tub full of hydrochloric acid in his pocket that was full of fertilizer, ammonium nitrate. The test tube broke when he leaned forward, resulting in a chemical fire in his jeans. The fire department carried him out of the school with no pants, wrapped in an emergency blanket. Not a nurse, but happened in the class I was an aide in. One girl pulled her tooth out. First grade, it's normal. Then less than 5 minutes later another 6 girls had pulled their teeth out. The last girl tried to pull one that wasn't even wobbly and did something nasty to her gum, and blood was pouring out everywhere. 2 kids fainted and the teacher couldn't even look, she was so green. I had to take her to the office to get some cloths and call mum. Not a nurse, but I was in gym class, goofing off with my friend. I was pretending like I was slicing him up with a flurry of knife attacks, a bunch of light pokes at the air around him that mostly didn't land, as I was running around him in circles. Then he put his fist out as I ran up behind him. We both had to clarify to the gym teacher that, no, it wasn't a fight. Yes, I ran into his fist, and yes, that was pretty stupid. In my rush to not bleed all over my gym clothes, I left a trail of blood leading to the nurse's office that scared at least one person before I came back to clean it up. Teacher here sent a boy to the nurse because his pants were too tight. Poor kid had pants so tight it caused his poor privates to lose circulation. Also sent a girl to the nurse because she somehow picked up rocks off my carpet and shoved them up her nose. Except she couldn't confirm she shoved them up there and she was freaking out. She couldn't effing remember if she shoved rocks up her nose. I was so done. The school nurse and I would laugh about their nurse passes. Not the nurse. Tried to remove stuck pen cap with scissors. Got scissors stuck through fingers. On the spectrum. So I politely rose my hand, dripping with blood, waited to be called on, pointed out the wound, walked to the nurse by slowly walking the proper route, as if an elementary school single file line so as to not disrupt hallway rules, lightly spraying the walls as I walked past. I was not a bright child. Not a nurse, but accident prone. When I was in 6th grade home economics we were working on sewing projects. I was constructing a jester bunny rabbit. I was attaching the head and body to the jester collar, which was a lot of fluffy toy material. To get the material to go into the sewing machine I had to really push down and try and flatten it before going in. I don't know how, but I managed to get both the material and my finger into the machine. The needle went through the center of my nail and tip of my finger bone. They had to dismantle part of the machine to get me, the rabbit and the needle down to the nurse's office. Once the extra string was cut the bunny came off easy. But the nurse had to get a pliers from the woodshop teacher to pull the needle out. My brother knew a guy who stole straight potassium from chemistry class after the teacher showed them what happens when you put it in water. First he made a toilet explode, then when he got caught by a teacher, kind of a hard thing to hide, his pants caught fire because he was in a nervous sweat. Not a nurse, but I was a summer camp counselor and often brought kids to the nurse. One day I had two campers both lose a tooth. They separately went to the nurse and got those little treasure chests that kids put their teeth into. It was surprising that we had two kids lose a tooth in one day since it was a small group and the campers were in the older range, but not out of the ordinary. Another one of my campers must have gotten jealous or something though, because suddenly she calls me over and says, "Look squid podiatrist, I can lose a tooth too." And just fucking puts her hand in her mouth and rips one out with reckless abandon. It wasn't even loose. She just went for it. There was a lot of blood and I kind of just stared at her for a few moments not processing what the hell had just happened. I think I remained professional, but it's hard to when a kid just tears a tooth out of their mouth without even flinching. It wasn't even loose. This felt like some Civil War amputation shit. Before I could react she started jumping around all excited because she lost a tooth and asked to go to the camp nurse. And I was like, yeah, at this point I think we should go to the fucking psychiatric nurse. But I didn't actually say that because that would not be appropriate and instead just walked her to the camp nurse in stunned silence as I was still trying to process what the fuck had just happened. Her parents tipped me well though, so I guess her impromptu tooth removal didn't have any long-term consequences. I'll add to the not a nurse but I was in the 8th grade when this happened. It was during passing period right before a pep rally and I was leaning with my hand up against the bathroom door while talking to this boy. We had heavy asterisk bathroom doors and when another girl walked in my hand, which was close to the hinges side, slid into the crack and the door closed all the way. I, luckily, quickly reached over, opened the door, started walking back to class. Within moments my hand feels funny, so I look down, and the top of my ring finger was hanging on by a thread. Blood was everywhere. Teacher tried to write me a nurse's pass, before realizing how bad it was. The nurse was pretty amazing. When I finally reached her, the hospital was able to see it back on and now I just have a crooked finger and a healthy dose of fear for doors. Not a nurse, but when I was in 4th/5th grade during recess a group of us were playing tag when a girl tripped in front of me and landed head first. She landed hard, and after about 10 seconds of just lying motionless she started to convulse and gargle foam from her mouth. It was completely surreal and shocking, but in no time the school nurse rushed out and took control of the situation. She picked up the girl and ran into the school building. We never saw her again after that day. Not the nurse in this situation, but the student. Actually, when I was about to finish 4th grade, I ended up in the nurse's office because, as we were leaving music class at the end of the day, some other dickhead kid pushed me, and I fell headfirst into an acoustic guitar's neck. Needless to say, I looked like Ric fucking Flair after an Iron Man match with all the blood all over my face, chest, and legs. Once the nurse got the blood to stop, she asked me what happened. I told her I hit my head on a guitar. She gave me a very puzzled look before just bursting out laughing.